In the far reaches of the galaxy, on a planet named Z47, lived a civilization that valued knowledge above all else. Among them was Lireth, a young but brilliant scientist, unlike most of his kind, who studied stars and planets only for resources or patterns. Lireth was curious about life itself. He spent his days observing the movements of planets, the glow of distant suns, and the tiny sparks of signals that traveled across the void. One day, while scanning the Milky Way, Lireth noticed something unusual. Among the endless blackness, filled with predictable patterns, there were signals that seemed alive. They were messy, chaotic, and yet strangely beautiful. At first, he thought it might be interference, but as he studied them closer, he realized these signals were coming from a small, blue and green planet called Earth. Lireth zoomed in on the signals. They were radio waves, television broadcasts, satellite messages, and countless other transmissions. But what fascinated him most were the bursts of music, laughter, and even arguments. To his logical mind, it made no sense that a species so small and fragile could produce such rich, complex patterns. Unlike his own species, which communicated in clear, precise signals, the humans' transmissions were messy, but full of emotion, creativity, and unpredictability. Lireth's curiosity grew into obsession. He spent weeks just listening, analyzing, and recording. He observed humans dancing, singing, painting, writing, and exploring their planet. He saw children learning to walk, stumbling and laughing, and adults solving problems in ways no machine could. There was something about them that no other intelligent life he had studied possessed. They were unpredictable, emotional, and endlessly creative. Unlike most of his peers, who believed that predictable intelligence was superior, Lireth saw humans' unpredictability as a strength. Their mistakes led to discoveries. Their emotions led to cooperation and art. Their curiosity drove them to explore and invent. He decided that observation from afar was not enough. To truly understand these humans, he would need to see them up close. Preparing for the journey was not easy. Zephorians traveled using ships that bent space, but no one had ever landed on a planet like Earth before. Its atmosphere was breathable but unstable, its weather unpredictable, and its creatures, especially humans, unlike anything he had studied. Yet, the challenge excited him. For the first time, Lireth felt a thrill he could not calculate or control. The journey through space was long, but finally, the blue planet appeared before him. Oceans glittered under the sun. Vast forests stretched like green blankets, and cities sparkled with lights and motion. From orbit, Earth looked fragile, yet alive. Lireth marveled at the intricate systems humans had built: roads, buildings, machines, but even more, he marveled at the signs of life everywhere. Birds in the sky, animals in the forests, and humans moving like rivers through their cities. He chose to land in a remote forest, where humans lived close to nature. This way, he could observe them without immediately being noticed. At first, he stayed hidden, watching. He saw families tending gardens, children playing, and people helping each other carry heavy loads. He saw humans laugh, cry, and sometimes fight, but even their fights revealed intelligence. They argued using words, gestures, and reasoning, not just instinct. Every day, Lireth took notes. He documented how humans used tools, how they communicated, and how they expressed emotions. He noticed that their brains and bodies worked together in ways no alien science had predicted. Humans could learn quickly, adapt to changing conditions, and create solutions without machines. He watched a group of people build a small bridge over a stream, using only wood, rope, and teamwork. The bridge wobbled, but it held, and humans celebrated their success with smiles and laughter. At night, he observed the humans' creativity. Fires glowed in villages, music echoed from houses, and lights flickered in windows. People told stories, sang songs, and painted pictures. Lireth was fascinated. No alien civilization he knew had such a combination of imagination, emotion, and resourcefulness. While Xiphorians created perfect machines and precise systems, humans created beauty from imperfection. They made art, music, and literature, not because it was logical, but because it was meaningful to them. Yet humans confused him too. He saw them make mistakes, take risks unnecessarily, and sometimes harm each other. They were unpredictable in ways he could not fully understand. Why would a human climb a dangerous cliff just to see the view? Why would they argue for hours over opinions rather than facts? Lireth realized that their unpredictability was not a flaw, it was a part of what made them unique and alive. One day, while observing a small town near the forest, Lireth saw something that caught him off guard. A child had fallen into a fast-moving stream. Without hesitation, a group of people rushed to save the child. One person dove in, another extended a branch, and together they pulled the child to safety. No machine had been used, just human instinct, courage, and teamwork. Lireth recorded every detail. He understood then that human strength did not lie in technology alone, but in their will, compassion, and ingenuity. As days passed, Lireth became bolder. He began experimenting with small interactions, leaving objects in places where humans could find them, or moving things slightly to see their reactions. He watched how humans adapted, learned, and collaborated in response. Sometimes they were frustrated, sometimes amused, and sometimes inspired, but always they acted with creativity and resilience. One evening, Lireth watched a family by a fire. The parents were teaching their children to build small tools and cook food. The children laughed when they made mistakes, and the parents encouraged them to try again. Lireth realized that humans taught not just knowledge but curiosity, patience, and persistence. Even failure was valuable. Unlike his people, who prized precision and correctness above all else, humans valued growth, learning, and experimentation. Lireth began to feel emotions he had never experienced. He felt admiration, wonder, and even a kind of affection for these creatures. He understood that observing humans was not enough. To truly learn, he would have to join them, interact with them, and experience their world firsthand. But doing so carried risks. Humans were unpredictable, and contact with a strange alien could provoke fear, anger, or even violence. Yet, the potential for understanding outweighed the danger. Lireth made a decision. He would assume a human-like form, one that could move among them unnoticed. He would blend in and learn about their world directly. As the first part of his journey on Earth drew to a close, Lireth sat on a hill overlooking the town. Lights twinkled in the distance, and the sounds of human life filled the air. Children laughing, people talking, music drifting from homes. He realized something profound. Humans were not perfect, but their imperfections made them extraordinary. Their curiosity, courage, creativity, and compassion set them apart from every species he had ever studied. With the stars above and the town below, Lireth felt a deep sense of purpose. He had come to Earth to study humans, but he was beginning to see that humans had lessons to teach him, lessons no alien could have predicted. And so, under the soft glow of the moon, he prepared for the next step: to walk among them, learn from them, and witness firsthand the remarkable abilities that made humanity truly unique. Lireth took a deep breath as he prepared to step into the human world. Using his alien abilities, he reshaped his body to appear like a human, tall but unassuming, with features that could blend into the small town he had been observing. The transformation was strange for him. Every movement felt heavier, every sound sharper, and every sensation more intense. His mind, used to perfect logic, struggled to process the new textures, smells, and tastes of the human world. But he was determined. If he wanted to truly understand humans, he would need to live as one of them. The first morning among humans was confusing. He walked into the town, noticing how people moved, talked, and interacted. He realized that humans relied on subtle cues: a smile, a gesture, a tone of voice. They communicated not just with words, but with emotion, body language, and even pauses. Leareth tried to mimic their gestures, but sometimes his movements were stiff, and people stared at him. Yet most smiled politely and continued on, leaving him encouraged. He decided to start small. Observing children playing in a park, he saw them building towers from wooden blocks, imagining stories and adventures. He approached cautiously and tried to participate. At first, the children were hesitant, unsure of his strange mannerisms. But when he laughed at their jokes, a laugh that felt odd and forced at first, they began to include him. Leareth was amazed. These children, with their energy and curiosity, taught him something his calculations never could. Humans learn not just by instruction, but by experimentation and imagination. Soon, Leareth began exploring other aspects of human life. He followed people to markets, where merchants sold fruits, vegetables, and handmade items. He watched how humans haggled and negotiated, sometimes politely, sometimes with passion. He marveled at their ability to trade and cooperate without complex algorithms, relying on trust, fairness, and intuition. Every transaction revealed creativity, empathy, and reasoning. Leareth carefully recorded these interactions, noting the ways humans balanced logic with emotion. One day, Leareth joined a group of teenagers who were preparing for a local festival. They taught him to cook simple foods, decorate the town square, and perform small dances. At first, he fumbled with the ingredients and steps, spilling flour and misplacing decorations. But the humans laughed with him, not at him, and guided him patiently. Leareth realized that humans valued persistence, humor, and collaboration, even more than perfection. Mistakes were not failures, they were opportunities to learn. As he spent more time in the town, Leareth began to understand the complexity of human relationships. Families, friends, and neighbors cared for one another in ways that were unpredictable and deeply emotional. He observed how a simple act, like sharing bread with someone in need, could bring smiles, gratitude, and stronger bonds. No alien formula could replicate this. Humans acted from both reason and emotion, creating a web of connections that strengthened their communities. Leareth's favorite moments were with children. Their curiosity was endless. They asked questions that seemed simple, but revealed profound truths about human thinking. Why does the sun move? Why do we dream? Why do people help each other? Each question challenged Leareth's understanding. In trying to answer, he realized that humans sought meaning, not just facts. Their minds were not limited to logic, they explored philosophy, morality, and beauty. One afternoon, Leareth walked near the river and saw a small group of humans building a raft. Their plan was imperfect, and the raft wobbled dangerously. Many would have abandoned the task, but these humans did not give up. They argued politely, shared ideas, and tried new approaches. They laughed when the raft tipped over and cheered when it floated. Leareth understood something crucial. Human ingenuity thrived on failure, discussion, and adaptation. Even when things went wrong, they found new ways to succeed. Leareth also began to notice the emotional depth of humans. He watched a young woman comforting her frightened pet, a father reassuring his child after a fall, and a group of friends consoling one another after losing a local game. Humans felt joy, sadness, fear, and hope, often all at the same time. These emotions guided their actions, strengthened their bonds, and inspired creativity. Leareth realized that emotions were not a weakness, as his people believed, but a source of strength, empathy, and innovation. The alien scientist's most profound lesson came unexpectedly. A storm approached the town, dark clouds rolling in and winds picking up. Leareth watched as humans quickly organized themselves. People secured their homes, gathered supplies, and helped neighbors. Some ventured into danger to protect others, while children were guided to safe places. Leareth felt a strange mix of awe and concern. Humans could be fragile, yet their courage and cooperation were remarkably strong. During the storm, Leareth secretly assisted without being seen. He subtly reinforced structures with small movements, moved fallen branches, and ensured that nothing catastrophic occurred. Yet he tried to let humans rely on their own abilities. What amazed him most was that humans took initiative, adapted to challenges, and supported one another without any external guidance. Lireth recorded every moment, realizing that humans' greatest power lay in their minds, hearts, and willingness to act together. After the storm, Lireth helped clean up, still in secret. He observed children and adults working side by side, laughing and encouraging each other. The storm had caused damage, but it had also revealed the resilience, ingenuity, and compassion that humans carried naturally. Unlike his own people, who depended on calculated planning and technology, humans thrived in uncertainty, solving problems with creativity and empathy. By the end of the week, Lireth had grown comfortable with humans. He had joined their daily lives, learned their customs, and experienced their joys and struggles. He had discovered that humans could create beauty from chaos, solve problems without perfect knowledge, and act with courage in the face of fear. He realized that humans' unpredictability was not a flaw, it was the source of their greatness. Lireth began to form relationships, small but meaningful. He befriended a baker who shared her recipes, a teacher who explained why children asked endless questions, and a group of teenagers who showed him how to play games, cook simple meals, and even tell jokes. He laughed often, something alien scientists rarely did, and felt a warmth he had never experienced on Zi-47. Humans were teaching him lessons that no observation or calculation could provide. One evening, as he walked through the town, Lireth watched the sun set over the mountains. The sky was painted with shades of orange, pink, and purple, and humans paused to admire it, take photographs, or simply sit in silence. Lireth marveled at this simple act. No alien civilization he knew took time to observe beauty simply for the joy of it. Humans did not measure the sky in numbers, they felt it, experienced it, and shared it. He realized that this emotional depth, this appreciation for life and beauty, was what made humans extraordinary. Lireth's curiosity grew into admiration. He had traveled across galaxies to study life, yet no species had shown the combination of intelligence, creativity, empathy, and courage that humans displayed daily. He knew that the next part of his journey would be even more important. Humans had challenges, disasters, and conflicts ahead, and he would need to decide how much to intervene and how much to observe. But for now, he felt a profound sense of respect and connection. As night fell, the town settled under a blanket of stars. Lireth looked up at the sky, thinking about his world and theirs. He realized that humans, small and fragile as they seemed, carried a spark that no alien science had predicted. Their hearts, minds, and spirits were intertwined in a way that made them capable of incredible acts of invention, creativity, and courage. Lireth smiled, a gesture he had learned from humans. He knew that his journey had only just begun. The next stage would test humans' resilience, intelligence, and compassion in ways he could not yet predict. And he, too, would be tested, challenged to understand, respect, and perhaps even protect a species that had captured his curiosity and admiration like no other. He felt a quiet excitement for the days ahead. Humans had already shown him lessons that no alien library could contain, and he knew that by continuing to learn from them, he might uncover truths about life, courage, and creativity that were universal across the stars. And so, Lireth's journey into human life continued, step by step, interaction by interaction, discovering not just the intelligence of humans, but their heart, spirit, and the remarkable ways they shaped the world around them. Weeks had passed since Lireth had begun living among humans. He had learned to laugh, speak, and even enjoy their foods, which were strange but delightful to his alien senses. He had come to understand their humor, their curiosity, and their endless determination to explore and create. But nothing he had experienced yet had truly tested the depth of human courage, intelligence, and compassion. That test came one morning when the sky darkened with heavy clouds. The wind picked up suddenly, carrying the scent of rain and the sharp tang of danger. Lireth, who had always been cautious, felt an unusual tension in the air. From the hills surrounding the town, he saw the river swelling, rushing faster than usual. He knew immediately that a storm of unprecedented strength was approaching, one that could threaten lives, homes, and the very community he had come to admire. Humans began to notice the danger too. At first, panic rippled through the town. Children clung to parents, and some adults argued about the best course of action. Lireth observed quietly, careful not to interfere directly. He wanted to see if humans could rise to the occasion on their own. He was not disappointed. One by one, humans began taking initiative. A teacher organized children into safe groups, guiding them to sturdier buildings. Neighbors helped secure roofs, reinforce doors, and move fragile possessions to higher ground. Farmers and laborers waded into mud and water to protect livestock and supplies. Lireth marveled at their quick thinking, adaptability, and teamwork. Their actions were not dictated by fear alone, but by empathy, logic, and courage combined. The storm hit with full force by mid-afternoon. Rain poured like rivers from the sky, and winds tore through the trees and streets. Lireth watched as the river overflowed, flooding parts of the town. Buildings shook, bridges trembled, and debris floated through the streets. Yet humans continued to act. A group of volunteers formed a chain to rescue a family trapped in their home. Another group built temporary barriers with sandbags, boards, and ropes. The tasks were dangerous, but the humans did not falter. Lireth felt an unfamiliar sensation as he observed their bravery. It was awe mixed with pride, emotions he had never experienced on Zi-4-7. He had studied countless species, but no life form had demonstrated such a combination of intelligence, courage, and compassion under pressure. Even when exhausted, humans continued to help each other, encouraging, guiding, and sometimes carrying those who could not move on their own. At one point, Lireth noticed a small child crying on a street corner, frightened by the rising water. Without hesitation, a teenager ran to the child, shielding them from the rain and carrying them to safety. Lireth was astonished. No alien formula could predict such selfless action, yet it occurred naturally, almost instinctively. He realized then that humans' greatest strength lay not just in their minds or bodies, but in their hearts. The storm's force continued to escalate, and some humans panicked, making mistakes or getting lost in the chaos. Lireth considered using his alien abilities to calm the storm or remove obstacles. But he refrained. He wanted to witness the full measure of human ability, their resilience, problem-solving, and moral courage. The decision was difficult, but he knew that true understanding required observation without interference. In the midst of the storm, a fire broke out in a small building, sparked by lightning striking nearby. Lireth gasped as he saw people rushing toward danger, forming buckets and passing water from one to another. One adult climbed onto the roof, risking life and limb, to rescue a trapped neighbor. Lireth could hardly believe it. Humans had no wings, no super strength, no shields. They relied solely on brains, teamwork, and willpower. Yet they acted with precision and bravery. Lireth decided to move closer, still unseen, to witness these acts firsthand. He floated above the scene, carefully observing the smallest details. How humans coordinated without formal plans. How they encouraged one another. And how even small gestures, handing a blanket, offering water, comforting a frightened child, made a tremendous difference. He realized that human empathy was a force as powerful as any technology. As the storm raged on, Lireth saw something that filled him with awe. A group of children, too young to move debris or carry heavy objects, were nevertheless helping in their own way. They cheered rescuers, sang to calm the frightened, and reminded adults of forgotten tasks. Their energy, hope, and courage were infectious, giving strength to the adults around them. Lireth recorded every movement, every choice, every act of bravery. Humans were extraordinary not because they were flawless, but because they could rise above fear and act for the greater good. Night fell, but the storm did not relent. Lireth saw the exhaustion on the humans' faces. Yet they continued to work together. Some slept briefly on benches or inside shelters, waking to continue their tasks. Despite fear, fatigue, and loss, humans found moments of laughter, encouragement, and shared joy. Lireth realized that no alien civilization he knew possessed this blend of resilience, creativity, and emotional strength. When the storm finally subsided, the town was battered but still standing. Trees were down, buildings damaged, and streets flooded. Yet humans had saved lives, protected property, and supported one another throughout the ordeal. Lireth floated above them, marveling at what he had witnessed. They had faced a crisis without technology or invulnerability, relying solely on intellect, courage, and heart. And they had succeeded. For the first time, Lireth felt a profound connection to humanity. He had not come to Earth as a hero, nor had he interfered with human efforts. Yet he had seen humans rise above fear, think creatively, and act selflessly. Their courage was not directed by laws or rules alone. It came from their values, empathy, and determination. He realized that this combination of qualities was what made humans unique in the galaxy. In the days following the storm, Lireth helped where he could without revealing himself. He moved debris that humans could not reach safely, helped repair fragile structures, and ensured that dangerous areas were temporarily stabilized. He did this carefully, allowing humans to maintain their agency and continue learning from the challenges they faced. Every time a human solved a problem independently, he smiled inwardly. The town slowly recovered. Humans shared stories of the storm, praised acts of bravery, and celebrated their survival. Lireth listened to these stories, marveling at how humans could find hope and community even after great adversity. They laughed at their own mistakes, comforted those who had suffered, and planned improvements to prevent future disasters. Their spirit was unbroken, their energy renewed, and their curiosity undimmed. Lireth realized that humans' greatest lessons were not in their technology or physical abilities, but in their approach to life itself. They faced uncertainty without panic, solved problems without perfect information, and acted with courage even when the outcome was unknown. Their creativity and adaptability were coupled with empathy, forming a force of resilience and hope unlike anything in his own civilization. One evening, as he sat on a hill overlooking the town, Lireth reflected on what he had witnessed. Humans had survived a storm that could have destroyed them, not through alien intelligence or powerful technology, but through cooperation, innovation, and heart. They had adapted, improvised, and acted selflessly. In that moment, he understood why humans had captivated him from the moment he first observed them. They were not just a species to study, they were a lesson in courage, creativity, and the power of spirit. Lireth also recognized that humans were still young. They were fragile, flawed, and sometimes reckless. But it was precisely these qualities, their imperfection, their willingness to learn, their emotional depth that made them extraordinary. No species in the galaxy combined mind, body, and heart in the way humans did. Their potential was limitless, and their uniqueness was a beacon for anyone willing to observe and learn. By the end of Part 3, Lireth had changed. He was no longer a distant observer, marveling from afar. He had become part of the human story, quietly learning from their triumphs, struggles, and daily acts of courage. He knew that his journey with humans was far from over. Challenges lay ahead, new lessons awaited, and humanity still had many secrets to reveal. But he was ready. Lireth had seen the true measure of human strength, and it filled him with hope, respect, and awe. He realized that humans were more than a species, they were a force of creativity, courage, and compassion, capable of extraordinary acts even in the face of disaster. And in witnessing this, Lireth knew he had found something rare and priceless. A model of life that combined intelligence with empathy, logic with imagination, and courage with compassion. Humanity was not perfect, but in its imperfection, it was remarkable beyond measure. And so, as the stars twinkled above and the town began to rebuild, Lireth prepared for the next stage of his journey. There were more challenges ahead, more lessons to learn, and more moments that would reveal the true greatness of the human spirit. He had come to study humans, but in truth, humans had begun to teach him what it meant to be alive. The storm had passed, but its lessons lingered. Lireth walked through the recovering town, observing humans working together to repair damage, comfort each other, and restore normal life. Every gesture, every shared effort, seemed small, but to Lireth, they were monumental. These humans, fragile and young as a species, had demonstrated qualities no alien civilization could replicate: courage, ingenuity, empathy, and determination intertwined to create a force that was greater than the sum of its parts. For the first time, Lireth felt something deeper than curiosity. Admiration, respect, and almost affection. Humans were not perfect. They argued, made mistakes, and sometimes acted recklessly. But they also adapted, persisted, and cared for one another in ways he had never seen before. He realized that imperfections were not flaws. They were part of what made humans extraordinary. As days passed, Lireth continued to immerse himself in human life. He joined in rebuilding homes, planting gardens, and repairing small bridges washed away by the floodwaters. Children laughed as they helped, learning responsibility while playing. Adults coordinated teams, solved logistical problems, and encouraged one another. Lireth took careful notes, not as a distant observer this time, but as a participant in the human story. He also began to understand the human love for celebration, art, and storytelling. After the storm, the town gathered for a festival to honor survival and cooperation. Music filled the air, and people danced, sang, and shared stories of bravery and ingenuity. Lireth joined in cautiously at first, unsure of how to move his human form correctly. But soon, he laughed freely, copying the children's dances and marveling at the joy humans could create even after hardship. He realized that humans found light even in darkness, a trait no alien logic could predict. During the festival, Lireth observed a quiet moment that struck him deeply. An elderly woman handed a small handmade quilt to a family who had lost their home in the flood. No one forced her. She acted from compassion alone, understanding that kindness could restore not just property, but spirit. Lireth understood then that human greatness was not measured in strength or technology, but in heart and intention. Their ability to care, to sacrifice, and to inspire one another was their true power. Lireth spent weeks learning, observing, and participating. He traveled with humans to nearby villages, witnessing the variety of ways humans interacted with the world. He saw farmers share tools with neighbors, teachers invent creative ways to educate, and engineers devise clever solutions to practical problems. In every action, humans combined logic, creativity, and empathy. Lireth was fascinated by how they balanced thought with emotion, solving challenges no alien science could fully calculate. But Lireth also knew his mission could not remain secret forever. The knowledge he had gained about humanity was unique. No alien civilization had ever understood humans at this depth. He faced a decision: return to Zi-4-7 with his observations, or share the story of humanity with other civilizations in the galaxy. He thought of the stars he had crossed, the countless worlds he had studied, and the potential for learning and growth. Humanity was special, and others deserved to know it. He decided to become an advocate for humans. Quietly, he used his alien technology to send records of human achievements to far-off civilizations. He did not interfere with humans directly. He preserved their independence. He showed acts of courage, innovation, and compassion, as well as their creativity in arts, music, and storytelling. He wanted the galaxy to see that humans were not just another species, they were a remarkable force capable of inspiring others. Lireth realized that humans, though young in cosmic terms, had a unique ability. They could adapt to almost any situation, solve problems creatively, and act with empathy and courage. He compared them to his own civilization, which relied on perfection, predictability, and calculated logic. Humans were messy, unpredictable, and emotional. But that unpredictability was a strength, not a weakness. Their mistakes led to learning, their emotions guided cooperation, and their curiosity drove them to explore and create. In time, Learth began to understand a larger truth. Humanity was not only surviving, but shaping the universe in its own unique way. They were young, yes, but full of potential. Every invention, every act of courage, every story of kindness became a testament to their strength, ingenuity, and spirit. Learth felt privileged to witness it, knowing that the galaxy had much to learn from humans' example. One quiet evening, as he watched the sun set over the recovering town, Learth reflected on his journey. He had come to study humans, but humans had taught him lessons no alien library could contain. They had shown him that life was not just about perfection or efficiency, but about courage, compassion, and creativity. They had shown him that even small acts, helping a neighbor, comforting a child, sharing a story, could ripple across communities and inspire greatness. Learth realized that his understanding of life itself had changed. Humanity was proof that intelligence alone was not enough. The combination of mind, heart, and spirit created beings capable of extraordinary feats. He knew now why he had been drawn to Earth. Humans embodied qualities that made life meaningful, inspiring, and endlessly fascinating. He also knew that humans would face new challenges, natural disasters, conflicts, and the unknown dangers of their own growth. But he had faith. He had seen how humans worked together, solved problems, and cared for one another. Their resilience, creativity, and courage would carry them forward. And he was eager to continue observing, learning, and documenting their progress. Before leaving Earth, Learth spent one last night among humans. He visited the town square, now repaired, where children played, adults chatted, and life flowed naturally. He smiled quietly, feeling a deep connection. These people, messy, imperfect, brave, and kind, had touched him in a way no other life form ever had. They had taught him what it truly meant to live, to hope, and to strive. As dawn broke, Learth prepared to depart. He would return to Sci-Fi, but he would carry humanity with him, not just in data, but in spirit. He would share their story across the galaxy, showing other civilizations that intelligence alone was not the measure of greatness. Courage, creativity, empathy, and resilience were equally important. Humans had proven themselves remarkable, and their example could inspire countless others. Flying above the planet, Learth looked down at Earth one last time. The oceans sparkled in the morning light. Forests stretched endlessly, and towns buzzed with life. Humans were still young, still fragile, and still learning, but they had already achieved extraordinary things. Learth felt hope, not just for them, but for the universe. If even one species could combine intelligence with compassion and creativity, then life itself held limitless possibilities. He whispered quietly to himself, a habit he had learned from humans. "You are remarkable." And he knew it was true. Humans were imperfect, unpredictable, and sometimes reckless, but that was what made them extraordinary, inspiring, and unique in the galaxy. Learth's mission was complete, but his journey had just begun. He would continue to observe, learn, and advocate for humanity, carrying their story to distant stars. He had come to Earth seeking knowledge, but he was leaving with understanding, respect, and a deep admiration for a species that had proven the true power of heart, mind, and spirit combined. And so, as the spaceship lifted off into the stars, Learth looked forward to the future. Humans would grow, explore, create, and inspire. And wherever he went in the galaxy, he would carry their story, a testament to the brilliance of humanity, the courage of their hearts, and the endless possibilities that life could achieve. For Learth had learned the most important lesson of all. The universe was vast. Civilizations were many. But humans, small, fragile, and young, were truly remarkable beyond measure.